the kingdom of my divine will, in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 36, Part 13. September 27th, 1938. The sea as symbol of the divine will. How seas of joys were flowing close to the pains of Jesus. The power of innocent suffering. The manifested truth as a new creation. I am always in the sea of the divine will, and my pains and bitterness are unspeakable. I let them flow into it, so that they may be invested by its light and turn into light for me. Then my sweet Jesus, visiting my little soul, all goodness, told me, "My blessed daughter, the sea gives room to all the things that dive into it. It gives room to the fish, keeping them submerged in its waters, giving them everything they need to survive. The fish are most fortunate and rich, because they miss nothing, living always in the sea. But if they went out of the sea, they would lose their lives. The sea receives anyone, taking all inside its waters. If the sailor wants to cross the sea, to go to different regions, the water of the sea receives the ship, becomes its way, accompanying him, never leaving him alone until he reaches his destination. Everybody can find a place in the sea. Such is my will. Everyone can find a place in it, and with unspeakable love, it becomes life of all, the way to guide them, light to dissolve the darkness of life, strength to sustain them. It never leaves them alone. It wants to do together with them whatever they do. Oh, how saddened it becomes in seeing its creature outside of its sea, because it sees them so ugly, dirty, and dissimilar as to be disgusting. Therefore, the most fortunate ones are those who live in my will. They are brought on the lap of its waves, and provided that they live in it, it will take care of all that is needed for their good. After this I followed my Jesus in his pains, uniting mine to his, and receiving their strength to sustain mine, which kept me crushed. Then my dear Jesus added, with unspeakable tenderness, "My blessed daughter, I suffered unheard of pains. But close to these pains, seas of joys, of endless happiness were flowing. I could see the good they were going to produce. I could see, enclosed in them, the souls that were going to be saved. And since my pains were filled with love, they matured with their heat the most beautiful sanctities, the most difficult conversions, the most astonishing graces. In my pains, I felt excruciating sufferings that gave me the most ruthless and cruel death, but also seas of joys that sustained me and gave me life. If I were not sustained by the joys contained in my sufferings, The torment was so much, I would have died at the first pain I suffered. I could not have prolonged my life. Now, your pains are not only similar to mine, but I can say that they are mine. If you knew how much I suffer, I feel their rawness, their torment, embittering me to the depth of my heart. But in these pains, I also see seas of joy flowing that will make my will rise again, more beautiful and majestic, in the middle of the creatures. You don't know what an innocent pain suffered on my behalf means. It can form, by its power, seas of graces, light, and love for the benefit of all. If it weren't for these innocent pains that sustain my justice, I would send to ruin the whole world. Therefore do not lose heart, my daughter. Trust me, and I will take care of everything, to defend the rights of my will, and to make it reign. I can say that everything I said regarding my will is like a new creation, more beautiful, more various, more majestic than the creation that everybody sees. Oh, how this visible creation remains behind it! As it is impossible for men to destroy or suffocate the light of the sun, to stop the impetuosity of the wind or the air that everybody breathes, or to make of everything a pile of ruins. In the same way, they cannot suffocate, much less destroy what I have said. This is a new, speaking creation, and each truth carries the seal of our divine life. So, in the truth I have manifested to you, there are speaking suns, speaking and overwhelming winds in my will, to the extent of besieging the creature with the empire of its power. In these truths, there exist my various beauties that will enrapture the creatures, the seas of love by which they will be continuously inundated, and that will win all hearts to love me with their sweet murmuring. In these truths I placed all the possible imaginable goods. Love that conquers, enraptures, sweetens, and shakes. Nothing is missing to dominate the creature, and to make my will descend with decorum and majesty, together with the army of my truths, to make it reign among them. And the creature won't be given the chance to shut out this new creation of mine. I will know how to guard it and defend it. Moreover, my daughter, this new creation costs me the work, not of 6 days, but of 50 years and more. How could I ever permit it to be repressed, not to have its light, or to come to light? This would be as if I had not enough power, which cannot be. I will know how to protect them. Not a single word will be touched or destroyed. It costs me too much. And when things cost a lot, all the means, all the arts are used, even one's own life, in order to obtain the purpose. Therefore, let me accomplish the job of this new creation, and do not worry about what they say or do. These are the usual human volubilities. At one wind's blow, they see black. At another blow, they take off the bandage and see white. I will know how to take over everyone and unleash the aggressive army of my truths to dominate the creature. It takes patience from my side and from your side. So, without moving, let's go forward. Fiat. October 2nd, 1938. How the kingdom of the divine will is a decree that must come on earth. How it has to sweep the earth. The Queen of Heaven prays and cries. The divine will is like the lymph for the plants. I am always in the divine will, although in inexpressible bitternesses, as if they wanted to muddy its sea. But the sea of the Fiat forms its waves, and covering and hiding me inside of itself, sweetens my bitterness, gives me back strength, and makes me continue my way in its will. Its power is such as to reduce to nothing my bitterness, making rise again from within itself its life full of sweetness, all beautiful and majestic. And I adore it. I thank it. I pray it never to leave me alone and abandoned. Then my sweet Jesus, repeating his little visit, told me, "My good daughter, courage. If you lose heart, you will lose the strength to live always in my will. Do not worry about what they say and do. Our victory is in the fact that they cannot prevent us from doing what we want to do. So I can talk to you about my divine will, and you can listen. No power can obstruct this. All that I tell you about my will is nothing other than the accomplishment of our decree, established since eternity in the council of our most holy Trinity. Our will must have its kingdom on earth. Our decrees are infallible. Nothing can prevent them from being fulfilled. Just as creation and redemption were our decrees, so our decree is the kingdom of our will on earth. Therefore, in order to fulfill this decree, I have to manifest the goods contained in it, its qualities, its beauties, and marvels. Here is the necessity I had to talk to you so much, to accomplish this decree. Daughter, I wanted to do this, by winning man through my love. But human perfidy does not allow me. Therefore, I will use justice. I will sweep the earth. I will take away all the harmful creatures who, like poisoned plants, poison the innocent plants. Once I have purified everything, my truths will find the way to give to the survivors the life, the balm, and the peace that they contain. And everybody will receive them, giving them the kiss of peace, to the confusion of those who did not believe in them and even condemned them. My truths will reign, and I will have my kingdom on earth. My will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Therefore, once again, let us not move in anything. Let us do our way, and we will sing victory. They can do their way, in which they will find confusion and shame of themselves. It will happen to them as to the blind, who don't believe in the light of the sun because they don't see it. They will remain in their blindness, while those who see it will enjoy and show off the goods of the light with complete happiness. Jesus remained silent. My poor mind was troubled by the so many evils that invest and will invest the earth. In the meantime, the sovereign queen made herself seen, with her eyes all red, as if bleeding for so much crying. What a heartbreak in seeing my heavenly mother crying! Then, with her maternal tone, with inexpressible tenderness, crying, she told me, "Dearest daughter of mine, pray together with me. It breaks my heart to see the chastisements that will invest the whole humanity. The volubility of the leaders. Today they say something, tomorrow something else. Will throw the peoples in a sea of pains, and of blood, too. Poor children of mine. Pray, my daughter, don't leave me alone in my suffering. They all happen for the triumph of the divine will." Then I was following the divine will in its acts, all abandoned in its arms, when my sweet Jesus continued, "My daughter, as the creature enters our will to make it her own, it makes our will her own, and we make her will our own. In everything she does, loving, adoring, working, suffering, and praying, our will forms its divine seed in her acts. Oh, how beautiful, fresh, and saintly she grows! Our will is like the lymph for the plants. If there is lymph in the plants, they grow beautifully, green, thick of leaf, producing mature, big, tasty fruits. But if the lymph begins to be missing, the poor plant loses the green. The leaves fall. She cannot produce her nice fruits. So in the end, it dries up. The lymph is like the soul of the plant. like the vital humors that sustain the plant and make it bloom. Such is the soul without my will. It loses the principle, the life, the soul of the good. It loses the vegetation, the freshness, the strength. It becomes faded, moronic, weak, and ends up losing the seed of good. If you knew how much I pity a soul who lives without my will, I could call her the painful scene of the creation. I, who created all things with such beauty and harmony, am forced, because of human ingratitude, to see the most beautiful creatures I made poor, weak, covered with wounds, to move to pity. And still my will is at everyone's disposal. It is not denied to anybody, only those who reject it, who, ungrateful, do not want to know it, voluntarily deprive themselves of it. Great pain for us. Fiat. October 10th, 1938. The creation as the first field of action of God. Fields of action, those who live in His will. How God cannot refuse anything to one who lives in it. I am always in the sea of the supreme Fiat, and its love is such that it cannot contain it. So it wants to show to its creature new surprises of this love, how much it loved her and still does. If it finds a loving creature, it makes arise new love, to let her touch with her own hand its unstoppable, always new and growing love. Then my always adorable Jesus, repeating his short little visit, all goodness told me, "My little daughter of my divine will, you must know that our first field of action was the creation. This was a labor that we kept in our divine womb since eternity. We loved man and every created thing that we were to deliver to daylight. It was only for him, because we loved him much, that we had decreed to create many things, to form for him the light of the day, the blue vault that was never to fade away, a flowered earth as pavement, and then the greatest thing, the concentration of our love in each created thing that had to serve him as our lap, to carry him in our arms, to delight him and give him continuous life. Do you know the reason for all these preparations, to the extent of making us go out of ourselves, as if into a field of action, to work for the love of who had to let our will reign? For such a great work we wanted our reward, our divine scope, which man and all created things had to keep as life and rule, feeding it with our will. This field of action still lasts. Our love still runs at incredible speed. because we are not subject to change. We are immutable, and what we do once, we do always. Still, even with such an extended field of action, so much work, so much love palpitating in every created thing and in every fiber of man, our scope, our will reigning and dominating in the heart of man, has not yet been fulfilled. Could we ever form a field so extended and still maintain it at work without obtaining the purpose? This could never be. The fact that the creation is still enduring is the certain sign that the kingdom of my will shall have its life and full triumph in the midst of the creatures. We do not know how to do useless things. Rather, we first establish, with highest wisdom, the good, utility, and glory that we have to receive, and then we act. Now, I want to tell you of another surprise. As the creature enters our will to let it reign, we put ourselves again in this field of action. We renew our work, and only for her do we centralize our new love in each created thing. Then, in the emphasis of our love, we say to her, "See how much we love you. Only for you do we develop our field of action. Only for you do we repeat all our works. Be all ears, and you will hear something. Our new love notes tell you how we love you, how you are covered and hidden in our love. Oh, the happiness, the joys that you give us, to the extent that we can repeat our field of action for the one who lives in our will, and who does not want to know anything other than our will. Now, the whole creation, as well as ourselves, finding in her our will, recognize her as our daughter. Since our will gives her the right over all, the whole creation remains centralized within her, and she within us, so that she becomes inseparable from all created things. Our field of action finds here its reward, the return for our work. This one creature, living in our will, works together with us. She wants to do what we do, and love us with equal love. Since it is one will that animates us, there can be no dissimilarity or disparity. We no longer feel isolated inside the field of creation. We have our company. This is our triumph, our victory, and the greatest good we can ever give to the creatures. Furthermore, although the creation surrounds her on the outside, we develop our field of action in the interior of her soul, creating in her the brightest suns, the most beautiful stars, winds that blow continuous loves, seas of graces, divine and balsamic air, and she receives all, freeing us in our field of action. Our true creation, that was never opposed to anything we wanted to do, and in which all our works found their place. So, we can place all our most beautiful works within the soul who lives in our will, and our will prepares for us the space in which to place them. Therefore, our field of action never ends in those who live in our fiat. Be attentive, then, to receive what we want to make of you. After this he added with a love that I cannot express, "My daughter, the interest that most concerns us, and our most assiduous attention, is on the soul who lives in our will. We are all eyes over her. It seems that we neither know how, nor can we do anything, if we do not extend our operating and creative virtue over her. Our love leads us to watch her, to see what she wants to do. If she wants to love our creative virtue, we create our love in the depth of her soul. If she wants to know us, we create our knowledge. If she wants to be saint, our creative virtue creates sanctity. In sum, our creative virtue is ready to create any good she wants, so that she can feel in herself the nature and the life of that good. We neither can nor do we want to refuse anything to one who lives in our will. It would be as though denying something to our own will, denying it to ourselves. It would be too hard not using our creative virtue for ourselves. See then the high, noble, and sublime point at which one who is in our will lives. Therefore, be attentive. Do not care about anything except living in it, and you will feel our creative and operating virtue. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 36, Part 13. Fiat.